Hello again, Bots and Bits fans. Today I'm bringing you Toy House Factory Shadow Wave. Now this was delayed a little bit because I was ill for a little while and I didn't want to do this until I had found a Takara to compare it to. It took me a long time to source one, but I did in fact source one. Now it's not in the best condition, so when I go over comparisons I will skip a couple of things like some joint looseness and paint chipping in the Takara, but we will compare some of the physical differences between the two. Now if you can hear some whistling, banging and birds screaming for their lives, it's because there is a crazy storm going on at the moment. Insane winds and we're about to get heaps of rain, so why not do a video during this perfect indoors time. Now when it comes to the box, Toy House Factory have done something a little bit different now. They haven't stolen anybody's artwork this time. It is just all very awesome looking product shots, so pretty happy with that. They should have just done this on the first one, to be honest, rather than nicking someone else's artwork, but you know, what are you going to do? But nobody really cares too much about that, so let's get rid of the box and move on to the accessories. So, to begin with, we have the well-printed instructions, which are exactly the same as Soundwave before him, and all the steps for Ratbat and how to make him hold his accessories. And accessories, Energon Cube. Looks alright, nothing too wrong with it. Lid is pretty loose, doesn't really, well, you know, it's not flopping off, but it's on there. Huge sprue mark there, but that doesn't really matter. It does sit on his chest just fine. Battery blaster next, and it does look good. The plastic is pretty neat. There's only one scuff mark going along the bottom there. The red paint is nice and vibrant, except when it gets to the edge here. See, you see the black plastic coming up through it. Transforms as normal, and it is a pain in the ass to transform. There we go. And I need something to poke that out. Where am I? Screwdriver. I can never get this chrome bit out. There we go. So the chrome looks pretty good. It's not too thick. Nothing wrong with it. Huge sprue mark there, but... and on the other side. When it comes to the Takara version, you can see that the red line all the way around is much more solid. Much more consistent, see? Yeah. Plastic is, this is more of a matte colour. You see, the Toy House Factory is a very glossy black. This is a more dull, almost matte. And transforms exactly the same way as you would expect. Chrome on the Takara is good. Sprue marks are minimal. Onto the Megatron gun. Now, just like the previous Megatron gun, it is mostly die-cast. And that red paint on the die-cast looks awful. And there's dirt in it. That's dirt. Anyway, the red plastic does not mesh well with the die-cast paint. Do we even still care about these? I don't. I'm not really a big fan. What else we got here? Plastic barrel is bent. So, or is it upside down? No, it's not the right way. Tight fit, but all the plastic bits do come off, and the plastic grip does extend. Pity that they didn't go for the clear plastic like on the Takara. Now, I'm missing the scope on this. It wasn't included when I bought the Sound Blaster for this review, but oh well. I do like the clear red plastic, the little Decepticon logo and all that. I wish Toy House Factory went this route. And he also will hold the Megatron gun, but you know, we've all been through this before. There's holding it and then there's holding it. So it will go in his hand, but it's not the greatest connection and it's not the most secure, but ah well. Next is the purple chest piece. Let's just get rid of all that. Purple chest piece. It looks really good. The purple plastic is nice. It's a bit smudged from my fingerprints and me playing with it. And I've got like a hair or something. But it does look good. And the gold paint, I'm really surprised, is immaculate. There isn't a single scratch or chip or anything. There we go. A little bit of a sprue mark just in the corner there. A little bit scuffed there, but that could have been my doing. I've been throwing this around a bit, as you do. But overall, really good. Different, however, to the Takara. The Takara chest piece looks like this. See, it's completely flat. It's a different design. This is just a copy of the Soundwave chest plate, whereas Takara actually have a different chest plate. The Takara plate does not fit onto Toy House Factory. The slots here are a slightly different shape. But apart from that, it fits on really well. Last accessory is Ratbat. Now in tape mode, comes in a clear cassette case, not the pink or purple like usual. In tape mode, he looks okay. The silver paint is done pretty evenly. I do have a scuff there and a little bit of a scuff there, but I have transformed this a few times already, so I may have done it. The gold here is not too flash. The gold around here is pretty good, however. It's a little bit fuzzy around these sections, but around here, like these wing bits, that looks great. And for tape mode comparison, here is the eBay KO. This one has a lot of gold paint spilt there. It doesn't fit together properly. It's, it's not that great. I probably wouldn't recommend buying the eBay KO unless that's all you're after. And we have the KO that came with the Toy House Factory Soundwave. See? Pink cassette case. Pretty much on par, as you would expect. The silvers are the same, the gold levels are the same. This one's actually a little bit neater. You can see I've got a bit of gold spillage just around that corner there. This one doesn't have that issue. And also this gold on this side seems much more reflective than the Soundwave version on this side, so something to note. Whoop, come here. Right, so transformation is the same. Let's just keep these separate so I don't mix them up. Soundwave, eBay, Sound Blaster. So, fold the wings out, bring these sections in, jet engines out, rotate them around, grab the bat head, fold these wings out, spikes up, bat head all the way around, and jetpack down. And there you have it, done. Now I'm just going to quickly transform these other two. Alright, and there you have them. Toy House Factory Sound Blaster, eBay KO, Toy House Factory Soundwave. Now the eBay KO has the Decepticon logo, but has a whole bunch of black paint all messed up around the legs. And this joint is starting to break. See? Overall, it's pretty floppy. There's not much face detail. His nose is on the side of his face. Hardly see the purple, hardly see the pink eyes, so it's not particularly good. Then you have the Soundwave version from Toy House Factory. Black nose, black mouth. The red in the eyes is pretty well done, and the purple isn't too bad. No spilt black paint, but around here, this paint is a little bit shitty. Sound Blaster version. Huge black nose. It's almost like he's got a mustache. Sort of looks like John Waters. Remember to smile. Black nose. The red eyes aren't really as noticeable as the Soundwave version, but the purple in the ears is very dark, which looks good. The black is done about on par with the Soundwave version. So joints are stiff, holds together well, and the gold on the jetpacks looks good. And he tabs onto Soundwave's shoulder just fine. The wings do get in the way a little bit, and he tabs onto his wrist just fine. Now I nearly forgot, how could I forget this? Ratbat as a tape in the chest. Now it does fit, but only one way. So let's see which way that is. I think it's gold side up, and he fits in there nice and tight. Will he come out? Kind of. Other way. One way he gets stuck, and you got to like pull him out with a screwdriver. Yeah, it doesn't want to go in gold side down. Yeah, there we go. He's in. Pretty sure he's stuck though. Yeah, there we go. So if you put him in and he gets stuck, instead of a screwdriver, you can just pull it out like that and see how he's like wedged, and then just tip it down, give it a bit of a flick, and he's out. Oops. And I nearly forgot. Emission sensor. Looks good. Silver paint's done a little bit too thick, but there's no cracks, no scratches, no nothing. So that is that, and we are done with accessories. Alright, so onto the comparison. Now, like I mentioned before, I'm not going to compare joint strength and paint errors because this is secondhand and it's quite old now. I'm not sure what it's been through or what it was like out of the box, so we're just going to cover the detail differences and color differences. Alright, so one big difference that I can tell straight away looking at them next to each other is the Takara has an almost matte finish to the black plastic, whereas the Toy House Factory is most definitely glossy. It is very glossy. And also, speaking of glossiness, the chrome here on the Takara is more of a silver color. It's still reflective, it's still nice. It has less of a mirror finish, whereas on the Toy House Factory, that is super reflective. Look at that. It's almost like a mirror. Like a this sort of reminds me of the mirrors that you'd find in like a Barbie doll house. Yeah, it's really reflective. Now some of the physical details are very different. Let's just bring them up and have a good close look. So if you look at the detail in the shoulder, on the Toy House Factory, things like these squares and these lines and all of that, they are much smaller. You see the difference? It's a very strange change to make, in my opinion. You can see the silver in the forearms. This is a more softer, flatter silver, not so reflective, sort of has an even coat to it. Whereas the Toy House Factory has much more of a mirror finish. And also, this red section in the wrist, you can clearly see it's nowhere near as big as the Takara wrist, which is really weird. Hands are the same, just slightly different plastic color. Like I mentioned before, there's no gold border on the Takara, and when we look at the faces, just go up and have a look at the faces. The Toy House Factory has the Year of the Goat face. The eyes sit much further forward. There's some different details in the mouthpiece here, especially where what you would call his nose, I guess. There's like a little point that comes all the way to the front of the face. And when it comes to the Takara, the eyes are set much further back, and there is a little point for the nose, but it is sort of further back behind his mouthpiece, not at the front of it like on this one. Now, I nearly forgot, and it's one of the most obvious things in the face, the Takara eyes. They are a very bright red. Hang on, let's come up a bit, shall we? That's better. Takara eyes, look at that. They're a very bright, reflective red. They've got like a something reflective behind them, and they just really pop, those eyes. Whereas the Toy House Factory, they almost look dead. They look black, don't they? They're not dead, they're not black. It is just smoked red plastic. So unless you've got a light shining through it, it looks like nothing. That's a little disappointing, because that looks fantastic. Yeah, not so much. The cannons are a little bit different as well. Toy House Factory has large missiles. Takara has very small pointy missiles. Details on the back. Now the Toy House Factory is slightly simplified when it comes to these details, and they're not quite as deep. So let me just get them out of the way. So you see all this machinery back here. Look at all the natural shadows and detail that you're getting in the Takara. You're not getting that in Toy House Factory because the details aren't as deep. This recess on the Takara goes much deeper than on Toy House Factory. Also, Toy House Factory has a simplified back of the head for whatever reason. Apart from some very slight size differences in detail, they're the only differences. On the hands, I just noticed on the Toy House Factory, the plastic is a very deep red, whereas on the Takara, not so much. Much more transparent. Looks more almost orange, really. But anyway, so down to the legs. A lot of the details, details and paint are very, very similar. So we still have same details here on the knees for both of them, but Toy House Factory has deleted these like two little rectangles in the side here. See on the side of the thigh? Gone. Details on the knees are almost the same, although like the back of the Takara, the recesses in the knee detail are much deeper than on Toy House Factory. And you can really see the difference in the silvers between Toy House Factory and Takara when they're next to each other like this. Much more reflective on Toy House Factory, which some might like, some might not. Anyway, onto the feet. They are still using the full die-cast feet, just like the Takara. Look at these squares on the Takara here. See how sharp that edging is? And then look at how this has all been filled in on Toy House Factory. Again, minor gripe, but a difference nonetheless. And that's pretty much it for details. So let's come up a bit and get rid of you for a sec. Let's get into articulation and strengths. So a place where this starts to shine is its articulation and the joint strength. Now, unlike the previous KO, the Takara Tomy Box KO, the ratchets and joints on this are exactly the same as Takara's. That means they haven't added any ratchets, they haven't taken any away. So we'll start at the top. The head, the swivel is nice and tight, but the head itself is quite floppy. Let's just come up a bit. Is quite floppy. He will look up, right? And it's not going down, but it doesn't take much to move it. Unlike my previous Toy House Factory Soundwave, where he could barely look up at all, and I had to actually disassemble the head and replace the screw. Onto the shoulder cannon, it's a little bit loose in this position, which is a shame because that's the position you're going to have it in most cases. So you have it there, just this hinge gives it up. You have it there, both hinges sort of, well, it doesn't really matter that much, I suppose. The arms all the way around is fantastic. That is stiff. These butterfly joints, reasonably strong. Give it a couple of tugs and it comes out. So happy with that. The bicep swivel, see how stiff that is? The same on both sides. Double jointed elbow, stiff enough. Then we have the wrist swivel, which is a little bit on the soft side. Then we have the first joint out on both sides. This one's a bit stiffer than the other one. Not too bad. And then we have the second joints out and arms all the way up. Pretty consistent both sides, I have to say, and much better than the previous offering I got from them. We have the waist swivel, which is a little on the loose side, as you can see. Buttons are still spring loaded. Now the hips, we've got the hip out. Pretty tight, pretty squeaky. Do they hold? Kind of. I'm not giving it that much of a shake. So, but they don't, look, it's not flopping. Well, that one is, look at this guy calling me a liar. That one is flopping. I guess you could probably tighten that pretty easily. Where's the screw? There it is. Probably just tighten that screw and add a bit more of a squeak to it, but whatever. Forward ratchets sound nice and strong. Do they hold? Kind of. pretty consistent with the others, I think. Holds reasonably well. Knee joints. How are we going to do this? Sounds a little bit soft. Let me just... I'm going to hold this just like that. Yeah, so one knee gave and the other one didn't. So what else have we got? Upper knee swivel. Oh, we got the swivel up there at the hip, nice and tight. Swivel at the knee, which is looser than the hip. Same there. We also have the foot, which not too bad. That's not too bad. The pivot is pretty good, and the in and out is good. What's this side like? That's a little bit looser. But the in and out and the pivot is still nice and stiff. So a couple of loose joints, mostly strong, stiff joints. So I'm pretty happy. All right, that's bot mode covered, so it's on to transformation, and I'm going to skip it. All right, so there they both are in cassette mode. Yeah, there's nothing too exciting going on here. A difference that I have just noticed that I didn't talk about earlier is on the Toy House Factory, there is no record battery writing here, and there's no red jewel or red fake LED in that light section there. Also, something else that I've noticed, not sure if it was out of the box like this and I didn't notice, or I've done it while transforming, but I've found quite a few silver scuffs. So like up here, along there, I've got scratches along there, scratches on this panel here by my thumb. Missing chunks all along there, see that? Where was the other one? That was all fine. Forearms, chips all down the forearm here. Like I said, I'm not sure if it was out of the box like that or I've done it since. If I've done it since, then it means 2 transformations and you've got scratches. So, not good either way. Butt flap sits in fine, I guess. I've got that little sensor in there, so maybe that's propping it up a bit because it's not quite flush. It does seem like a little bit of unnecessary detail to me, but whatever. Now, I can't quite get this section here to tab in 100%, so you've still got a little bit of a gap. Now, I'm pretty sure it's me, right? When I transform the Toy House Factory, I always get the legs in this sort of forward position. See how the hips aiming upwards on both sides. I think that's causing my problem. I have spoken to people about the previous version where they say you ratchet click the thigh back one and then turn it and it will all go in fine. I tried that, and when I pushed it all in together, the ratchet clicks just sort of defaulted back to this position. So I'm sure it's something I'm doing wrong because I've seen other people do it fine. So take that into account when you're putting it together. Maybe you'll have better luck than I did. Now, like I said before, buttons still work. You have the little volume switch, the power switch doesn't want to move, but you know, who cares. When it comes to the Takara, this feels much more secure. Although I will say one thing about the transformation of this: the tabs where the legs tab into the side. Oh Jesus, they are strong as that tab in there. Look, actually, I've started to. It's so tight. There's a bit of plastic coming off of it, so it's just that's on there. That is really tight. So this feels really secure, with one exception, except for this. The tabs that hold the arms in the back, they're just sitting on them. Look, that push it in and they do nothing. See the tab I'm talking about? Just in there, and then this tab hole here. That's just, yeah, pretty useless. Doesn't really matter too much, I guess. He does pretty much just turn into a block. So, but on the Takara, the tabs, while they're not the tightest, they do work. So, something to note. And that's pretty much it. Oh no, wait a minute. Let's just do this spring mechanism gizmo. Gold side up. Let's not get stuck. Or is he already stuck? No. Didn't quite come all the way. Probably because I got that open. And let's close that. And now it won't open. Get out. Clear plastic, and look, it's flexing. It's flexing. It's sort of caught. There's a little lip in there that just likes to lever it out. Well, that's embarrassing. I think he's. Oh, there we go. Woohoo! He's out. Not doing that again. Something else I just thought of while just sort of getting angry with it. Can't find sprue marks anywhere. I should have mentioned this already. But Toy House Factory, they tidy their bots up really well. I think that might be a sprue mark. Just can you see that? Just there on the shoulder, tiny little sprue mark. That's about the biggest one I've been able to find, to be honest. They have tidied this plastic really well. I think though the paint is just a little too fragile. I've got more chips up here and along here, and that could just be from me sliding it around playing with it. It seems like the silver's a bit fragile. But apart from that, yeah. Final thoughts. So that all-important question, is it worth it and should you buy it? Well, for me, this one that I received, I'm pretty happy with it. It's good. You know, it's better than what I've received from them before. It's better than the other KO. The Takara, it's sort of hard to tell because it's so old. But I'm happy with it. You know, for about 75 Australian dollars, it's pretty good. That doesn't mean it's perfect. I had a couple of loose joints. The silver paint does seem pretty delicate after a bit of playing around with it, but it poses well. Rat-Bat is pretty good quality. The accessories hold together well. It's a little bit different to Takara, and I like that when KO companies do that. They distinguish theirs a little bit. It's still a knockoff, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a whole new product, but they do make some differences and changes to make it their own somewhat and not a direct copy. So if you're looking for a Sound Blaster for your collection and you don't want to pay the ridiculous open market prices for the Takara that people are currently asking, I recommend him. You could wait for Takara to maybe reissue him. Their reissue prices have been pretty stellar lately. But if you don't want to wait and see, this costs like 75 Australian dollars. It's available everywhere now. So yeah, grab him if you want one. I like mine. And that is the end. Now, if you enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe to my channel. Remember to check out my Facebook for daily updates on KO and third-party news. I do have a new Instagram account. Be on the lookout for #botsandbits, all one word, and show me a bit of love over there if you don't mind. And as always, guys, thank you very much for your time, and thanks for watching.